There's something about alcohol and boredom that turns straight guys into chaos. That's probably how I ended up sitting shirtless in my living room with 3 guys I barely knew, and my best friend Logan, who was definitely more drunk than he was letting on, daring me to do something I still can't believe I actually went through with. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It started like any other boring Friday. I was supposed to meet up with a date from Hinge, but she canceled last minute. Logan, my roommate, had nothing going on either. We were just gonna hang out, order wings, maybe play some Mario Kart. But then Logan got a text. "Yo," he said from across the couch, half grinning at his phone. "Is it cool if Marcus and Ben come over? They want a drink. Said they're bringing tequila." I shrugged. Sure, what's the worst that could happen? I didn't know Marcus and Ben well, just that they played intramurals with Logan and had that casual, jockey energy. Harmless mostly. Loud, athletic. The type of guys who wore tank tops in February and smelled like Axe in gym sweat. They showed up around 8:30 with a bottle of tequila and a pack of White Claws, like they were about to turn our apartment into Coachella. I wasn't exactly feeling the vibe, but I didn't want to be a buzzkill, so I went along with it. Drinks started flowing fast. Logan and Ben went shot for shot, and Marcus kept trying to get me to drink more, claiming I was too sober to be fun. I gave in after the second round. The tequila burned worse than I remembered. Eventually, we ended up all sitting on the floor around the coffee table, half a pizza between us and a very empty bottle of Espolòn. Logan leaned back against the couch, grinning like a guy with one too many secrets. "All right," he said, raising his eyebrows dramatically. "Truth or dare?" I laughed. "Seriously? Are we in high school?" "Come on, it's a classic," Marcus chimed in. "Besides, we're all drunk enough for this to get good." It started predictably. Ben was dared to drink from his shoe. Marcus had to text his ex, "I still think about you," and show us the read receipt. Logan picked truth and admitted to sleeping with his TA last semester, which no one was surprised by. Then it was Logan's turn again, and his eyes landed on me. "All right, Ethan," he said, grinning with that slow, dangerous energy that meant he was either going to say something incredibly funny or deeply embarrassing. "Truth or dare?" I rolled my eyes. "Fine, dare." Logan looked at me for a second. Really looked at me, like he was trying to make a decision. Then he leaned forward a little, his voice quieter now, but no less confident. "I dare you to kiss me." I laughed. I thought he was kidding. I looked at the other guys, waiting for them to laugh too. But they didn't. Marcus looked stunned. Ben said, "Oh shit," under his breath. Logan just kept looking at me. I stopped laughing. "You serious?" I asked, trying to sound casual, even though my heart had started thudding in a way that made me instantly aware of how warm my face was. He didn't smile, just raised his eyebrows. "You said dare, man." I blinked. We were close. I could smell the tequila on his breath, the faint scent of his deodorant underneath. We weren't touching, but it felt like we were. "You want me to kiss you?" "In front of everyone?" "Unless you're too scared," Logan said, his voice teasing now but not mocking. The room felt smaller. I looked at Marcus and Ben again. Neither of them said anything. They were waiting. I turned back to Logan. And for reasons I didn't fully understand in that moment, I leaned in. I don't know what I expected to happen when I kissed him. Laughter? Shock? A punch in the arm, followed by a "gotcha, bro"? But what actually happened was way stranger. Logan didn't pull away. It wasn't a long kiss. Just a few seconds. My lips pressed to his, the air between us thick with heat and alcohol. But in those seconds, it was like the room paused. Like the background noise, the sound of Ben cracking a beer, Marcus laughing nervously, all of it faded into a dull hum. His mouth was warm, slightly chapped from the tequila. He didn't move, didn't deepen it, but he didn't stop it either. When I pulled back, he was staring at me with this unreadable look. Not angry, not confused, just watching. Then he smiled. Well, damn, he said quietly, like he hadn't expected me to actually do it. Ben let out a low whistle. Yo, Marcus looked like he didn't know whether to laugh or clap. All right, okay, that was unexpected. My heart was beating way too fast. I grabbed my drink and took a big sip, trying to act like it was no big deal, like my best friend's lips didn't still linger on mine. Like I wasn't already replaying the feeling of it in my head, trying to decide if it had meant something, or if it only felt that intense because I wanted it to. The game moved on. Marcus picked truth. Ben dared Logan to do 20 squats while carrying Marcus on his back, which got everyone laughing again. But I couldn't stop thinking about what just happened. Neither could Logan, apparently. A little while later, after the guys had started to slow down, too buzzed to keep up the energy, Logan caught my eye. He gave me that subtle nod, the one we always used when we wanted to step away from a crowd without making it obvious. I followed him into the kitchen. He grabbed 2 beers from the fridge, handed me one, and leaned against the counter. For a moment, he didn't say anything, just looked at me. So, he said finally, "You didn't hesitate." I shrugged, even though my face was hot. It was a dare. "Yeah, but still," he said, a little smile tugging at his lips. "You didn't even think about it." I took a sip of beer. "Would have been weirder if I made a scene about it." He chuckled. "True." Silence again. Then he tilted his head a little. "Was it weird for you?" I didn't answer right away. I wasn't sure how to. The air between us was charged, thicker than before. Logan didn't sound like he was joking anymore. He wasn't smirking like he had been during the game. He was serious, curious. I could lie, brush it off, make it something dumb and forgettable. Or I could tell the truth. "No," I said. "It wasn't weird." He nodded slowly, like that confirmed something he'd been wondering. "Okay," he said. "Just checking." But he didn't move, didn't look away. His eyes stayed on mine, and the silence between us stretched again. I could hear the muffled voices of Ben and Marcus laughing from the living room, but it felt like Logan and I were in a separate world, cut off from whatever rules existed out there. Then he asked it. "Would you do it again? Would you do it again?" He said it so casually, like he was asking if I wanted another slice of pizza. But the way he looked at me, steady, a little intense, made it anything but casual. I blinked. "Are you serious?" He gave a half shrug. "I don't know. Kinda feels like we didn't give it a fair shot. Everyone was watching. Didn't feel real." I laughed under my breath, trying to keep my cool. "So what? You want a redo?" He didn't smile this time. "Yeah, I think I do." My heart felt like it had jumped into my throat. I leaned back against the counter, needing something solid to keep me grounded. The kitchen light above us buzzed faintly, and in the soft hum of the apartment, I realized the laughter from the living room had died down. Maybe Ben and Marcus had passed out. Maybe they'd left. I wasn't sure. I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about Logan, about the way his jaw clenched when he was nervous, about the way he was looking at me now. "So?" he asked again, more gently this time. "Would you?" I looked at him for a long second. "Yeah," I said finally. "I would." There wasn't a dramatic pause. No movie moment. He just stepped forward, like we'd done this 100 times before. His eyes stayed on mine as he closed the space between us, like he was waiting for me to flinch. But I didn't. And then, he kissed me. This time, it wasn't for a dare. It wasn't rushed or fueled by alcohol and peer pressure. It was slow, almost hesitant. His hand brushed my side. Not grabbing, just resting there. I felt his breath against my cheek, the soft press of his lips against mine. And the weirdest part was how natural it felt. Like this wasn't the first time we'd done it. Like it was something we'd always been meant to do. When he pulled back, he didn't say anything. Just looked at me, his expression unreadable. I cleared my throat. So, he smirked. So, we both laughed, a little too nervously, and the tension cracked slightly. What the hell was that? I asked, not accusing, just genuinely trying to process it. He rubbed the back of his neck. I don't know, man. I've been thinking about it lately. Just wondering, I guess. Wondering what? If there's more to this. Us. I mean, you're my best friend. And maybe I've been ignoring something for a while. I stared at him. You're not just drunk? Maybe a little, he admitted. But not enough to say something I don't mean. That hit harder than I expected. I looked away, my chest tight with something I couldn't name. We stood there in the kitchen, the silence stretching again. But it wasn't uncomfortable now. It was heavy with something new. Unspoken. Real. Logan was the first to move. He leaned back against the fridge, exhaled and said, Look, we don't have to make it a thing. I just wanted to know. Yeah, I said softly. Me too. But in my head, it was already a thing. And there was no way I was sleeping that night. We didn't talk about it again that night. After that second kiss, Logan just gave me a pat on the shoulder, somehow the most casual, unromantic gesture possible, and wandered back into the living room. Ben was snoring lightly on the floor, head propped on a throw pillow like he lived there. Marcus was still awake, scrolling on his phone, barely paying attention to anything around him. If either of them had noticed we'd been gone, they didn't say anything. Logan crashed on the couch, pulling a blanket over himself like nothing had happened. I stood in the kitchen for another minute, my beer warm in my hand, before finally slipping back into my room. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to process the 1,000 questions bouncing around in my head. Was this a one-time thing? Was Logan figuring something out about himself? Was I supposed to pretend it didn't happen? Or did he actually mean all that stuff about wondering, and what did I want? It wasn't like I hadn't thought about him that way before. I had. Plenty of times. But they were just stray thoughts, passing glances when he was shirtless after a workout, or when he got too close on the couch during movie nights. I'd trained myself to ignore them. But now he'd kissed me twice, and I'd kissed him back. And it hadn't felt weird, it hadn't even felt wrong. It had felt real. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of eggs and the faint sound of a pan sizzling. I shuffled out of my room in sweats, still groggy. Logan was in the kitchen, wearing one of my hoodies and flipping eggs like he wasn't the same guy who kissed me less than 12 hours ago. Morning? He said, like everything was normal. I scratched my head. You're up early, he shrugged. Didn't sleep that well. Same. Ben was gone, apparently. Marcus was passed out under a blanket on the recliner, mouth open, like a dead fish. I poured myself some coffee and leaned against the counter, watching Logan move around like a domestic husband. He glanced at me. You good? I nodded, though I probably looked anything but. Logan slid a plate in front of me, scrambled eggs, toast, and a slice of leftover pizza he'd reheated. Figured you'd be hungry. I sat. Thanks. He poured himself coffee and leaned against the sink. For a few minutes, we ate in silence. The tension was there, but softer now. Less about confusion, more about anticipation. Finally, he spoke. So, about last night, I looked up. I wasn't trying to mess with you, he said, voice low. That wasn't a joke, or some dare I took too far. I meant it. I set my fork down. Yeah, I figured. He exhaled, nodding. And I'm not saying I know exactly what I'm doing here, or what it means. But I've been thinking about it for a while. About you. That stopped me. Wait, how long? He looked at me, then away. Couple months? Maybe longer. I don't know, it just started creeping in. I stared at him, trying to understand how this was the same guy who once told me I was like a brother. So why say something now? He shrugged again. I don't know. Maybe because we were drunk and playing a stupid game. Or maybe because I got tired of pretending it wasn't a thing. He met my eyes again. Is it a thing? He asked. For you? I didn't answer right away. But then I said, yeah, it's a thing. He didn't smile. He didn't jump into my arms or try to kiss me again. He just nodded. Like my answer confirmed something he'd already hoped for, but hadn't let himself believe. It was quiet for a while after that. Not uncomfortable, just still. Then Logan said, "Okay, so what do we do now?" It was such a simple question, but my brain stalled. I wasn't used to this part. I'd had flings, hookups, the occasional situationship that fizzled before it became anything. But this? Sitting across from my best friend, who I might have actual feelings for, while we ate eggs and leftover pizza? This was new. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe we don't have to figure it out all at once." He nodded, looking relieved. Yeah, that's probably smart." We both knew what we were doing. We were soft launching whatever this was. Neither of us wanted to put a label on it yet, and we definitely didn't want to deal with what our friends might say. But underneath all that quiet agreement was this buzz of energy, something sparking between us that hadn't been there before. Or maybe it had been there the whole time, and we were just finally letting it out. We spent most of that day being weirdly normal. Cleaned up the living room, watched a couple episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, ate junk food. If someone had walked in, they would have thought we were just roommates, just bros doing bro things. Except there were moments, like when our legs touched under the blanket and neither of us moved. Or when I caught him looking at me a second too long during a quiet scene. Or when he leaned against me on the couch for a little longer than he needed to. And then that night, when we were both heading to bed, it happened again. I was brushing my teeth, shirtless, wearing old flannel pajama pants, when Logan came into the bathroom behind me. He was in gym shorts and one of his old band tees. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, just watching me. "What?" I asked, my mouth full of toothpaste. He shrugged. "Nothing. Just, this feels weird." I spit into the sink. What does? Us. Being like this, not just roommates. I looked at him in the mirror. "Is that a bad thing?" "No," he said quickly. "No, it's just weird good. Like I'm still getting used to it." I turned to face him, drying my mouth with the towel. "Same." He took a step closer. Then another. And suddenly we were toe to toe in the doorway, the small bathroom feeling impossibly small. The buzz of the ceiling fan was the only sound between us. "I've been thinking about it all day," he said. "Me too. I kind of want to kiss you again." I looked at him. "So, do it." He didn't hesitate this time. His hand came up, resting lightly on my side, and he leaned in. Slower than before, but more deliberate. The kiss was deeper now, less about curiosity and more about confirmation. Like we both needed to feel it again to make sure it was real. When he pulled back, his eyes searched mine. "I don't want this to be a one-time thing," he said. "Neither do I." The next morning, something shifted. Not in a bad way, just different. Logan was still Logan. He still complained about how bad the coffee tasted and tried to blame me for leaving his protein powder on top of the fridge, even though we both knew it was his mess. But the way he looked at me, that was new. There was this quiet awareness now, like we were both seeing each other more clearly. Or maybe just finally letting ourselves look without turning away. He leaned against the kitchen counter while I ate a bowl of cereal, scrolling through his phone like usual. But every couple of minutes, he'd glance up at me. Just quick flickers of attention, like he was checking to see if this thing between us still existed in the daylight. It did. "You working today?" he asked, keeping his eyes on his phone. "Yeah, afternoon shift." He nodded. "Cool. I'll probably hit the gym." Normal words, casual tone. But his foot nudged mine under the table, and when I looked up, he gave me this small, dumb smile that felt like a secret. I don't know how to explain it, but I couldn't stop smiling the rest of the morning. That evening, when I came home from work, he was already there, on the couch, controller in hand, a bowl of popcorn on the coffee table beside him. He looked up when I walked in, then scooted over without saying anything, leaving space for me to sit. We didn't need to talk about what we were doing. He paused the game after a few minutes and looked over at me, serious now. "Is this weird for you yet?" he asked. I thought about it. Not really. It's kind of nice. "Yeah, he said, nodding slowly. It is. He set the controller down. I've never done this before. With a guy, I mean. I figured. I don't want to mess it up. You won't, I said, and I meant it. Because whatever this was, it wasn't fragile. It didn't feel temporary or accidental. It felt like something that had been growing in the background for months, maybe longer. We'd just finally given it space to exist. He nodded, like he needed to hear that. Then he leaned in again, more confident this time. The kiss was slower, softer, but still lit with the same spark. When we pulled apart, he whispered, "So what happens next?" And honestly, I didn't know. But for the first time in a long time, not knowing didn't scare me. A week later, it still didn't feel real. Not in the sense that I doubted it happened. No, it was very real. The kisses, the late night conversations, the way Logan would casually reach for my hand when we were sitting on the couch. That was all happening. But it felt like something I wasn't supposed to have. Like a dream I accidentally stepped into and didn't want to wake up from. We hadn't told anyone. Not yet. We weren't hiding it exactly, just keeping it between us. Figuring it out without outside noise. I liked it that way. So did he. We kept things simple. Cooking breakfast together on Saturdays. Sharing earbuds while we watched dumb YouTube videos. Lying in my bed after midnight with the lights off, talking about nothing. Sometimes we didn't talk at all. Sometimes we just lay there, our legs tangled, his fingers resting on my chest, and that was enough. Then came the night he asked if he could sleep in my room. It was almost 2 a.m. We'd been up late watching a movie, and he didn't say it like it was a big deal. Just yawned, rubbed his eyes, and said, "Mind if I crash in here tonight?" I didn't. We lay there under the same blanket, both facing the ceiling. Our shoulders brushed, and the silence was comfortable. He turned toward me first, shifting onto his side. "I keep thinking about that night," he said quietly. "Which part?" "The dare. That moment right before I said it." I turned to face him too. "What about it?" He hesitated. "I almost didn't do it. I had that thought, like, what if he pulls away? What if I lose you?" "You didn't," I whispered. "I know, but I almost talked myself out of it. Then you said dare, and I just went for it." I reached out, brushing my fingers along the back of his hand. "I'm glad you did." He moved closer, resting his forehead against mine. "Me too." That night, we didn't sleep much. Not because anything dramatic happened. We didn't hook up or get caught or have some massive emotional breakdown. We just held each other. And it was quiet and warm and steady in a way I didn't realize I needed. It felt like peace. And maybe that's why I didn't flinch when he whispered, "I think I'm falling for you." Because I already was. Logan didn't say it like a confession. He said it like a fact. Like he was just telling me something honest and uncomplicated. "I think I'm falling for you." And somehow that made it hit even harder. I didn't say anything at first. Not because I didn't feel the same, but because I wasn't sure I trusted my voice to work properly. He pulled back slightly, just enough to see my face. "Too soon?" I shook my head. "No, not too soon." The silence that followed wasn't tense. It felt like a landing. Like the kind of quiet that comes when you stop fighting something and just let it be. "I think I am too," I said. And his whole expression softened. He reached up and brushed my cheek with the back of his fingers. "Okay, good." There was no dramatic music, no swelling emotion, just two guys in one bed figuring something out with shaky hands and steady eyes. Over the next few weeks, things slowly shifted in ways that only we noticed. He'd touch my back in the kitchen when he passed by. I started sleeping in his room sometimes, even though mine was 10 feet away. He kissed me on the cheek when I left for work once, then got weird about it, but I kissed him back before he could retreat. We never had the talk. No official status. But it didn't feel necessary. One night, we ended up back where it started, sitting around the coffee table, just the two of us this time. He brought it up out of nowhere, halfway through a bottle of wine we'd opened because we were too lazy to go out. Do you ever think about how it all started with a dumb dare? I smirked. Yeah, honestly, it's wild. That moment could have gone so differently. He nodded slowly, then glanced over at me. But I'm glad it didn't. Me too. He leaned in and kissed me, slow and sure, and when we pulled apart, he said, "Next time we play Truth or Dare, I'm picking truth." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah? And what's the truth?" He grinned, leaning in again. "That I'd pick you. Every time." I rolled my eyes, but I didn't stop smiling. That was so corny. "Shut up," he said, laughing as he shoved me gently. But I didn't shut up. I kissed him again instead,